Welcome to another episode of Antenna Adventures. So, the other day I ran across the last picture of my Channel Master 3671 Crossfire Ultra High 100 mile VHF UHF antenna. Without going and looking back at the details, it was somewhere between 13 and 14 feet long. The largest behemoth that I've ever owned as far as an antenna is concerned. Some people today still say this is potentially the best low VHF, high VHF, and UHF combo antenna, that still comes and goes on the market. Channel Master, it seems to be discontinued for a while. They'll bring it back. Then, then it'll get a little bit harder to get. Then it'll be a little bit easier to get. But, Televis and all have kind of, what would be the word for it, have made smaller antennas, with internal preamps and stuff like that, and being cut for the new frequencies, kind of making these guys here obsolete, except maybe for the low VHF stuff here, because I don't think many of them have the gain of any combo antenna as these guys do for low VHF. And you can't really find a dedicated low VHF antenna. You can buy a VHF high one. You can buy UHF ones. You can buy UHF ones cut for the repack is what they call it. In the olden days, UHF went to channel 82. So I'm not sure if this was cut for all of that or if it was for like the days when it went to what did it go to, like 50 or 60 or something, and now we're at 36 or something like that. So these haven't been redesigned for the repack models, but you can still get your hands on one. I'm not trying to sell you on this guy. They are big, bulky. Getting them up in high places, and they could, especially if like a telescoping mast is what I installed this on originally, and just the sheer size of it, even though these guys don't weigh that much, about 10 to 14 pounds, maybe less than that, because they're like all hollow aluminum, it still makes that mast just swing downward, like it pulls that thing to almost to the ground sometimes. I'm sure the size of it made it not the easiest to pull up a tower either, without having a man or two on the ground kind of pulling it, with a rope pulling it away from the tower so it doesn't hit the guy lines and the tower itself. And yeah, but that we can talk about nostalgia. I got this antenna on my first place that I owned myself. My first place that I owned. So this is the antenna I chose to get. I got a Channel Master. I don't remember, but it had the combo inputs, the Titan something, and there are several variations of the Channel Master Titan preamp. So I got that. I think it was called a 50-foot telescoping mast. I think it was also by Channel Master. I think they go up about 44 foot or something like that, because there was some overlap between each pole or whatever. And this was right, I think, before the transition to digital. So I do not think I was able to get it all the way up to 50 foot. We had some problems. I hired a drunk to actually Put it up because I didn't know what I was doing. It did not go well. I'm going to show you what that Channel Master antenna looks like now in ruins. Sorry, I just got distracted by a deer that just jumped our fence. So this is the Channel Master 3671. It has seen better days. So maybe 5 years ago, I took it, I pulled it out of the weeds and all. Maybe one or two of the elements might have been damaged or broke. So I said maybe I should rebuild this. But now, a few more years later, you know, a third of the elements are gone. It could probably technically be rebuilt in some fashion, but it's probably not worth it. Not for me. Most people that would want it would probably just scrap it anyway. But coming across that picture the other day and brought back nostalgia. And I will go back to my first like family experiences with these big television antennas in a minute. But yeah, you know, that was my first antenna for my first home that I owned. I never really got it to receive the channels that I wanted. It did better than just, you know, putting something 15 foot in the air, but it was just marginally better. And, you know, could that have been something that we could have fixed had we got somebody else install it? You know, I don't know. So it's kind of not a great nostalgic experience, you know, doing all that, but it wasn't bad either. What I'll go back to now is talking about, you know, people, you may hear them say or may have heard in the olden days, well, we got one channel or two channels and a bunch of snow. Even similar channels, I mean similar antennas as the Channel Master over there. Maybe like a Radio Shack or Wine Guard or something. Or even another just slightly smaller Channel Master antenna. We had those types growing up. We could probably get PBS, which is, I guess, the highest power station around us. One of the ABC channels, maybe. And we got an independent channel. We knew of other channels, like Fox, that may have came in and out intermittently or whatever. But we only consistently got like those one or two channels. My dad would get out and move that antenna around, twist the pole around to try to adjust it. And we could get, like, most cases, like 80% noise. And you can see some little movements and black and white-esque figures, and maybe hear a little bit of conversation from the TV shows. But, you know, this may sound different than us talking about nostalgia of movies and TV shows that I often, you know, talk about. That's because we didn't have cable TV until probably the late 80s. Satellite was an option. Very expensive to get like the video cipher module and the receiver and the whole setup. I think it was around $4,000 at the time. Maybe a little bit more. You know, with financing and all, it's really expensive financing. But some people obviously had satellites. So we had VCRs
And this is the most likely the reason why I have so much nostalgia for movies is we had the drive-in theater, which was really cheap. Every weekend they would open. They would only open on the weekends, and they almost every time would play 2 movies. It was $2 per carload, so all the concessions were cheap. You know, no $16 or $20 soft drinks. You know, if you wanted a hamburger, it was probably like $1. You wanted a drink, it was probably like $1 or 60 cents or something like that. I don't know. M&Ms, you know, Kit Kats, whatever, 40, 50 cent. Hot dogs, nacho cheese. You could get, because they were kind of in a swamp, they had these little smoke things that you light up and it would detract mosquitoes. And they had it on like the AM radio station or like a little mono speaker. You pulled, you know, your car, and there's like this pole with 2 speakers, and these speakers would sit down on your door, you know, where your window is, and you would hear this mono low-tech you know, speaker. So you didn't have like surround sound or anything like that. But as far as antennas back then, for our area, we didn't get anything. But, you know, cable TV came and we could get like, was it WGN and stuff, and watch Matlock, and, you know, and I would eventually get a C-band satellite or a few of them after, you know, after I think we got cable. We went from antenna to cable and kind of switched back and forth to C-band. You know, we had 1 or 2 C-band dishes that didn't have the video cipher module. That just like an old fiberglass dish. And I think my dad got like a 10 or 12 foot dish, and they had like, you know, the HBO and stuff open, and like the adult stuff would come on at a certain time of night, you know, when kids were supposed to be in bed, free. But it didn't last long, you know. I think he traded it to an uncle that was like, oh, he's got, you know, porn and stuff on it, so we really want that. So he sold or traded that in satellite. You know, in hindsight, he probably should have kept it and got a video cipher module instead of getting the whole setup, you know, and just, you know, saved a lot of money on financing and all that stuff. So if you hear that story from your grandparents or parents or uncle that we got 1 channel or 2 channels and a bunch of snow, most likely they are telling you the truth. When we switched to digital, you know, it's kind of like an all or nothing thing. You either get enough signal to play, unless it's just, you know, so bad that it's just pixelation and freezing. But for the most part, you either got a good enough signal to play it or you didn't. So a lot of those channels that might have been snowy were fixed. A lot of them that were too snowy but had something on them, you may not get at all. So it was a and with the ATSC 3.0 next gen TV, they should fix some of the multi-path issues and stuff. So it should, at least on a technical standpoint, it should be better. So if you're getting a signal, it should be more stable. You should, like me, always getting a signal from 107 miles away or whatever in Orlando. I'm getting a signal that I probably would not get at all from ATSC1. And I know I'm not, because there are ATSC 1.0 channels in Orlando, including ones that are the same stations. So they're transmitting on ATSC 1, ATSC 3, and I'm getting signals on only the ATSC 3.0. So that tells me that, yes, there's definitely some better signal transmission and receiving issues with, you know, better, you're more capable of getting that. Sorry, I seem to be like stumbling. So you're more likely to receive stations a little bit further away with ATSC 3 than you are with ATSC 1.0. That's the whole point I was trying to make in a lot of my videos that I have made or will be making in the future regarding tons of things: movies, video games, baseball card collecting, music, record collecting, all that stuff. When I talk about nostalgia, I'm usually talking about the best. This was not bad memories. This was not, something I did and said I really didn't like it, but I'm stuck with this Atari. I'm stuck with this, Rolling Stones, and that's the only thing I had is this album here, or this, and but with the antenna, the first antennas we had, it just was not a good thing. I mean, I still maybe that could have started, like a building block to me loving TV and movies, because we wanted something that we couldn't generally have for the most part without going to that drive-in, without getting a VCR, laserdisc, Select-O-Vision, Betamax, all that stuff.